please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Good morning, Deer Hill students, faculty, and staff, and honored guests. Boys and girls, Veterans Day is a very special day for all of us. It is a holiday, but a solemn holiday. And solemn can mean sad sometimes, but not always. Solemn in this case means Veterans Day is important, but in a serious way. In a way that takes full measure of the sacrifices and contributions of our honored veteran guests, and of the respect that is owed to them. On this day, we take time to remember those veterans of the different branches of the military who have fought and sacrificed to keep America safe and free throughout our country's history. We honor the men and women who right now wear the uniform of a soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, or Coast Guard, and who put their personal lives and dreams aside to ensure that you and I can pursue ours. We should honor these people who sacrifice so much for us every day in our hearts. But on one day a year, we honor them publicly. What exactly is it that these men and women fight to protect? When you think of soldiers leaving their homes and their friends and their pets and their family to fight in a faraway country, maybe in a hot, dry desert or a cold and lonely mountaintop, do you ever ask yourself, why are they fighting and who are they fighting for? We know they fight to protect our freedom, but what does it mean to be free? It's a hard thing to understand sometimes because in our country, we don't know anything else. Some of the freedoms that we enjoy and maybe take for granted are freedom of religion. In some countries, the government tells the people exactly how they should worship and where and when. And if the people won't do it, they may go to jail or worse. In some countries, people are not free to travel around, even to see their family and friends that they might miss terribly, or to see other parts of the world. In some countries, people are not free to speak out against the government. They may lose their jobs if they do. In some countries, and I know it's hard to believe, where there are some countries where if you speak out against the government, you might be taken to jail and never even given a trial, and these people just disappear and their families don't know what happened to them. In our country, if someone is accused of committing a crime, that person has a right to a fair trial and a right to defend themselves with all evidence of their innocence. In some countries, little girls can't go to school. In fact, just last month, a 13-year-old girl was violently attacked in public when she was riding on a bus because she had spoken out about how she thought girls should have the right to go to school. This young girl has dreams for herself and her life, and she knows she needs an education if she's ever going to fulfill them. But there are some people in her country, not most of them, not most people, but enough of them to be dangerous and threatening to others who don't like this idea and don't want to see some people become educated. Why not, you must be asking? How could anyone possibly argue the right of a whole group of people, like girls, to go to school? I could try to explain, but quite frankly, I don't really understand it myself, and so I would just be guessing. The point is that in our country, that will never happen. How can I be so sure? I'm sure because the United States is a country that was founded on the idea that all people are created equal, and they have inalienable, undeniable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, we're not perfect, and along the way, there have been times of discrimination against groups of people, groups of our own citizens. But as a country, we continue to work toward erasing all forms of discrimination when it appears. We do have a constitutional right to education, freedom of religion, equal participation in our community. We are a country founded on those principles hundreds of years ago. We remain true to those beliefs today, more strongly now than ever, and we have our guests of honor, the veterans who represent the U.S. Armed Forces, to ensure those rights for us never go away in the face of any kind of threat. And we are grateful, but we know that to have a free life where we have these opportunities, it means we also have a big responsibility. It is our responsibility to see to it that freedoms are not taken for granted. It is our responsibility to understand and appreciate every single day what a valuable and precious and wonderful thing it is to be free. You must all make a promise to do your very best as you grow up, to study hard and learn, to be kind and compassionate and helpful to others. We all owe it to the veterans who fought for us throughout history, and we owe it to the men and women who are making sacrifices in their lives right now. Some of our 5th grade students have worked very hard on writing essays for this ceremony. And I'm so sorry that we don't have time to read all of them, because I and a few other people read all of the essays that were submitted, and they were all wonderful, beautifully written, very sincere, and we enjoyed reading them. There were 3 essays, however, that did stand out in the crowd as being ones that I think everybody really should hear. The first essay that we will hear is entitled "A Way to Say Thank You." And it was written by actually 2 students who got together and collaborated. They wrote this essay together, which is new for us. And those students are Emily Appleton and Virginia Coffey.
A way to say thank you. The veterans have done something that is worth more than a simple thank you. They have risked their lives for our freedom and our country. All we can do is imagine how dedicated these amazing individuals are to our country. Today, we honor them with all our hearts to show that we as people, that we as a town, that we as a nation appreciate all these courageous people.
These veterans had to be more than brave. They had to leave their friends and families and traveled into a different country. The veterans had to be ready to fight for their country every second when they were in war, and they knew that could be their last second doing anything. But that didn't stop these veterans. They kept fighting, thinking of the people they love and the country they love.
These veterans think of other people before they think of themselves. They journeyed into dangerous places for our own lives, not theirs, but our own. They fought for us until we had justice. They cared about our country every second they were fighting, the people they loved caring about them every second.
Their courage is what brings our world together. If they didn't go out there, our country would be a mess, because most heroic people didn't fight for what they loved, their country, but they did. And our world might not be perfect, but we're not far from it because of these valiant people.
Everybody was counting on these men and women. We as a country couldn't be more proud. We as a school couldn't be more amazed. To actually make a stand and go out there is an amazing thing to do. Their love for our country is beyond our belief. No matter where they are, it is our lives and our freedom and our country they will fight for. They will put our lives before theirs. They take a stand for what they believe in, and they take the word courage to a whole new level.
These veterans were expected to go fight for our country, but they did more than that. They showed us that when you're dedicated to a country, you'll put your heart out there and give it all you've got. They were thought of by everyone alive in our country when they were fighting, and they are still thought of as now as the heroic people that make America what it is today.
They went out and fought for our country's opinion, even if they didn't agree with it, like some of the Vietnam soldiers. They had to deal with some pretty mean people when they came back, but now we realize how important these veterans are to our country. Instead of giving them cold shoulder, we should have thanked them. We hope they realize that we are very thankful for what they achieved. We have learned so much from that experience. We are grateful that they have fought for us so hard.
These special people forget yesterday and think for tomorrow. By that we mean they leave behind what happened in the past, because they know they cannot change it, no matter what they do, and they focus on what impact they can have on the future. They showed us that no matter who you are, you can always fight for what you believe in. Now we are free and safe to do anything we want. This ceremony is our way to say thank you to the veterans who have changed our lives forever. Thank you.
Virginia, nice job. Our next essay is entitled Veterans Day, and it was written and will be read by Sloan Simpson.
Good morning. When I was assigned this Veterans Day project, I knew right away I was going to do the essay. To be a veteran made me think about my grandfather, Joseph Peroni, a retired captain of the United States Navy. Many times I drove to the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island, and we talked about the military officers of our country. He has always told me how amazing a veteran is. I decided to interview my grandpa and get a better understanding of what it means to be a veteran. He explained to me, a veteran is someone that served our country as a member of the Army, Navy, Air Force, or Coast Guard. They sacrificed their life to protect our country. They are amazing people that are loyal, devoted, courageous, kind, nice, and smart. They are heroes. My grandfather told me the story of his father's 3 brothers that volunteered to serve in World War II. His uncle Tony was in the Army Air Force Division, and because he was a college graduate and in law school at Boston University, he got asked to go into the intelligence branch of the Army. Instead, he turned it down to remain with his crew as a staff sergeant because he felt loyal to them. My grandfather never forgets the telegram that his grandma received that Tony's B-17 plane was shot down, and he was killed by Germans over Belgium. That day, my grandpa knew he would serve in one of the armed forces someday. Today, 1.7 million Americans are enlisted in the military. There are over 21.8 million veterans in the United States. It is important to honor a veteran because they sacrificed their life to protect our country. Veterans Day is an important day to remember, thank, and honor those who served in the military. After interviewing my grandpa, I realized how proud he is of all the veterans of the United States. I, too, am proud of all the men and women that serve our country and am proud to be an American with them. Let's give a round of applause for the veterans.
Thank you, Sloan. Very nice job. Our last essay is entitled Souls of Hope, and it was written by Devaney Company.
When you think of the U.S. forces and Army, what do you think of? Most Americans think of the men and women with the camouflage suits, the ones who step on the battlefield and fight for our freedom. There are some heroes who will never hold a weapon or ever see a battlefield. These people play forgotten roles. Without them, our country would crumble. Here are just some of the examples of the forgotten roles. There are 150 jobs in the Army. One of these important but forgotten jobs is the Veterinary Corps. This was first started in 1776 by George Washington, when he saw they needed to pay more attention to the horse's health. The U.S. Veterinary Corps is their mission is to support the men and women at war and home. They do this by providing care to military working dogs, horses used in ceremonies, and all the animals of the Department of the Homeland Security. The Veterinary Corps are also one of the first to respond to natural disasters. Their skills are important and needed in order to keep all service members safe. The courage to care, courage to connect, courage to change. That is one of the mottos of the next group of sometimes forgotten heroes. There are the nurses that care for all wounded soldiers and retired veterans. The nurses tend to the physical and mental wounds of our warriors. The nurses give their strength and their power to push through challenges in very difficult times. Even as I say this, nurses all over the world are participating in missions and supporting our soldiers in war. They play a role in the Army and yet are typically not thought of as veterans. My last example of a role that is meaningful but sometimes buried under the fame of the heroic soldier is the job of the chaplains. Their purpose is to soothe the minds of the soldiers that have been physically, mentally, and emotionally scarred. They also offer religious services and guidance to soldiers whether in peacetime or at war. The Chaplain Corps have over 2,700 priests in the military. A famous example of the chaplains' devotion to their country was the story of the 4 chaplains. During World War II, a ship was torpedoed. 4 Army chaplains gave up their life jackets and sacrificed their lives when the ship sank. The role of the chaplains is necessary for the military to succeed. All of the heroes who have served in a silent but important role helped build this country. Without them, our freedom would not exist. So next time you think of the veterans, think not only of the brave heroic soldiers, also think about all the other great sound American heroes that helped make our freedom possible. Now I'd like to thank all veterans who have served our country. It is through their experience they have taught fellow Americans that freedom is not free. Veterans have fought for our freedom and theirs. They know that freedom is a gift. If it was wrapped in ribbons and placed in a box, people would rush to purchase the present. However, all presents come with a price. In this case, veterans buy it for us. There's no exchange of money, but instead their voluntary sacrifice, devotion, and sometimes their life pays the price of our gift of freedom. There is just one thing left to say to all the veterans. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. And now we're in for a treat because our very own Deer Hill School Band has been rehearsing My Country 'Tis of Thee. And I invite everyone to join along singing. Those of you with programs, the words to both verses are on the back. The first guest speaker is familiar to you. He has been coming to our Veterans Day ceremony, and I have to tell you, if it wasn't for Mr. Tom Wigmore, I don't think we could have a Veterans Day ceremony because he helped so much in putting it together. Mr. Thomas Wigmore, Commander, Sons of the American Legion.
Thank you. When you boys and girls go home today, if you have a relative, your father, mother, grandmother, grandfather, or just a neighbor that's a veteran, thank him for his service, or thank her for her service. Veterans are what make this country great. And behind me are a few veterans. I'm going to have them introduce themselves to you.
Thank you, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here today. I am the town of Cohasset's current acting veteran service officer. It's quite an honor for me to be here with my fellow veterans and my comrades, and you, boys and girls of this school, who today I've noticed walking around the library, the halls of your school, the posters, the amount of work you've done on the PowerPoints, the speeches that were given today, the wonderful band that you have. You're very fortunate to be in such a school that cares so much about our nation's veterans. And I wish to have my fellow veterans, and for you boys and girls, to give yourself a round of applause for the amount of work you've done, and what a great thing. Thank you.
And I'd like to introduce the rest of the veterans that are assembled here.
Charlie Daly, Specialist for 4th Class, U.S. Army.
Jim Peggy, First Lieutenant, United States Marine Corps.
Joe Mahoney, Captain, U.S. Marine Corps.
Jim Menching, Corporal, United States Marine Corps, and Commander, Medical Corps, USA, retired.
Good morning. Ed Graham, Colonel, United States Army.
Ken Woodman, discharged in 1954 from the U.S. Air Force.
Brendan Crosby, retired, U.S. Army, Navy and Air Force.
Francis J. Paradise Jr., the U.S. Army, Spec 5, Vietnam.
Peter Wood, Coast Guard and Army, Sergeant Major.
Bill Limbacher, Spec 5, U.S. Army.
Leland Jenkins, Captain, U.S. Army.
David Whittle, Chief Flight Officer, United States Navy.
John Staunton, U.S. Navy, Signal.
Garrett Hunt, Staff Sergeant, United States Air Force.
Maggie Hoffman's dad, Captain, United States Marine Corps.
Oh!
Corporal, United States Marine Corps.
Steve Whitmore, United States Navy, Aviation Electrician Bank.
I'm Robin Sile. I was a Navy nurse for 5 years, and I'm Morgan's mom.
Jack Sile, United States Marine Corps.
Joseph Litchfield, United States Marine Corps.
Let's give them all a round of applause. Six years ago, your principal came to me and asked to put this service together to assist her. We put the first service together 6 years ago. There was 3 veterans here. Now we need either a bigger stage or more chairs. This program was designed to recognize our veterans for Veterans Day. A year later, we brought on our past Veteran Service Officer, Joe McElroy, and the faculty at Deer Hill School made this possible and got this program up and running. I asked Dr. DiChiara why she did this program and why she was so dedicated to this program. Her reply was her father's service in the U.S. Army. Her father was William Paul Martin, born October 12, 1932. William was a Korean-era veteran who served his country in the U.S. Army from August 26, 1954 to his honorable discharge, August 2, 1956. William served with the 327th Communication Recon Company. William was awarded the Good Conduct Medal for his service. William passed away this spring, March 12, 2012. Today, the faculty and the students and the veterans assembled today dedicate this program, this Veterans Day program, to the memory of William Paul Martin, United States Army. I will now present to you this flag that was flown over the Deer Hill School on Saturday evening in his memory.
Thank you, Mr. Wigmore. I'm very touched, and I look forward to sharing this honor with the rest of my family. It is true, my father did serve in the Korean War. He didn't want to go. He was drafted. He was very young, but in the later years of his life, he spoke about his service in the Army with great pride, and it impressed me and my sisters very much with what his service in the Army meant to him. So I want to thank you very much for this honor. It's a surprise, and I'm very touched by it.
Could I have the custodian, Tom Jones, on the stage, please? Reminds you of the music circus, don't it? Mr. Jones is a U.S. Army veteran of the Vietnam era, and I just want to recognize him. He's been a custodian here for how long? How long have you been in the system? 39 years. The other reason I brought Mr. Jones up here is I'd like to have him introduce his childhood friend. If he could take care of that.
Yes, and thank you for the applause. I'm very happy to have a friend of mine for many years. We just met each other for the first time in about 40 years this summer. And when Veterans Day came around, I thought I'd give him a call and see if he'd want to come up and say a few words to the kids. Joseph Litchfield, would you come up, please?
First and foremost, I have a debt of gratitude for you being in our presence. And also, the most important thing, I'm standing here with a lot of honor and personal pride from the gentleman that I served with, an honor to this country. And the most important thing, I'm a Vietnam veteran. I served I was wounded in my 6-month duty. I served with the India Company, 3rd Battalion, 7th Marine, 1st Marine Division. They were also the 1st unit in Iraq on the invasion in Cold 3. It was the India Company 3-7. So our tradition lives on. But most important, what is Veterans Day? For most civilians, Veterans Day becomes one day. For veterans that serve their country in honor, Veterans Day is every day. And when I look back and reflect on my own personal Vietnam experience, what did it give me, and what did it take away from me? Well, first of all, it paralyzed me emotionally and psychologically, and I came back in a state of confusion. In a state of confusion, it became a way of life. It wasn't just an experience that we all experience in our personal journey, but it became a way of life. So I could not sort anything out. I turned to the VA, and the VA, when I turned to them in time. Why I say that a lot of my fellow comrades and my buddies are no longer here for that reason. When you're wounded, and the invisible, and I'm talking about the wounds, when you look at me, you see me as a Vietnam veteran. Oh, he looks good. He's got it together. But I'm still in therapy since 1972 for my war experiences. And I'll probably have to be in as long as I have to be in to find a better way and to live with myself through my experiences. But I also never did anything in my combat experiences that would allow me to regret, if I came back alive, regret what I did. And I never did anything that I could say today that I can't live with. And you come back as a veteran, and for us, as we came back, for a lot of us from the Vietnam experience, we came back, it was harder to come back to this country with the reception that we received. I could not personally wear my uniform without feeling uncomfortable. Because that was the nature and the circumstances of what was taking place at the time. But that's about healing. This country has a tremendous capacity to build, and we know as comrades, tremendous capacity to destroy. We also have a tremendous capacity to overcome any foe that we have to encounter. In the Vietnam experience, we never lost a war, a major battle. That speaks a lot, it speaks volumes, because Vietnam unfortunately became a political war, and our leaders weren't there for us in a way they should. But we as veterans and soldiers that saw the war firsthand, we can appreciate from the heart that when you survive the war, as I am, from a personal perspective and from my fellow comrade, you live many lifetimes in one lifetime. What I mean by that is when you see war scars and faces, you live it for the rest of your life. And how do you put that into perspective? Well, the drawback to that reality is when you're young, as I was at one time, at 19 years old, I was in Vietnam fighting for my life, that it was a curse. When I came back, it was a curse. And then when I started getting help, and I started living longer, and I'm going in my 60s now, and I'm so thankful for my war experiences, for my Vietnam experience, because I sorted it all out, and I put it into perspective to be able to be a better person to oneself. And I'm honored, and I'm proud to be a Marine. I'm proud also to serve my country in the armed forces. And never ever forget one thing that I would recommend to you as young people, because I look out at the crowd and I see potential soldiers, men or women. And I recommend two things. To always wear the uniform with respect and honor. If you can't do that, then you shouldn't wear the uniform. But always know that, and I'm going to leave you with this, honor the dead and care for the living. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Litchfield. I know that the students and I are very appreciative of your willingness to share your personal experience in service with us, and gives us an awful lot to think about. So, boys and girls, that marks the end of this year's Veterans Day ceremony. Now you know that Veterans Day is celebrated in this country on Monday, so we won't have school on Monday. But I do urge you on that day, as all days, to be grateful for the freedoms that you have, and remember who to be thankful for, because we have them. So thank you for being such a great audience. And I would just ask that the 5th grade teachers begin to dismiss from the back rows.